Welcome to the Vault Excel. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Wiccan. Thank you for joining me. I hope everyone is staying warm. Please be careful out here if you're traveling, flying, driving, and just being at home. Once again, as I said, please open your bottom cabinets that's in your bathroom, your kitchen. Let your faucets drip, bathtub, bath sink, and also your kitchen sink, and open the cabinet doors so your pipes don't freeze. This is a two-part live pertaining to the arrest of Don Lemon and the Idaho 4 autopsies. They have been released to the public. I will discuss that content last. Let's get to Don Lemon, everybody. He has been arrested by the feds pertaining to this anti-ICE protest that took place in Minneapolis at a church where he went and interviewed people at the church, pastor. Let's get down to business. Thank you for joining me. You are now listening to the Vault XL. Thank you.
Disgraced ex-CNN anchor Don Lemon was arrested early Friday over the anti-ICE protests that stormed a Minneapolis church during Sunday service, according to his attorney and Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents in Los Angeles, where he was covering the Grammy Awards, Lemon's attorney Abby Lowell said in a statement shared with multiple reporters. He was one of four people arrested by federal agents early Friday in connection with a coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, Bondi later confirmed in a statement. Lemon, who had been documenting the increasingly violent protests following the shooting of Renee Nicole Good, live-streamed himself alongside demonstrators with the Racial Justice Network, storming into the city's church in St. Paul, Minnesota, as they called out resident pastor David Eastwood, whom they accused of moonlighting as the acting field office director for ICE in the North Star State. Some service disruptors chanted slogans heard at the dozens of other protests that have wreaked havoc around Minneapolis, while others specifically slandered Eastwood for supposedly misrepresenting the ideals of his faith through his support for ICE. Lemon spoke with the congregation's lead pastor, Jonathan Parnell, who said the bombardment was shameful.
This is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
The Department of Justice announced a probe into the demonstration at the church for potential violations of civil rights laws, specifically for interfering with Christian worshipers, according to a post on X. Harmeet Dillon, the Justice Department's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, chided Lemon on social media.
Hello,
A house
Joe.
of worship is not a public forum for your protests. It is a space protected from exactly such acts by federal, criminal, and civil laws. Nor does the First Amendment protect your pseudo-journalism of disrupting a prayer service. You are on notice, she wrote. In a follow-up post, she noted that the FBI had been activated and accused the protesters of desecrating a house of worship. Lemon had dismissed calls for him to be prosecuted for joining in with the group and defended his actions as protected under the First Amendment. The MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true, Lemon said, claiming he had no affiliations with the organization, defending his actions as, quote, an act of journalism.
Okay, everybody. New York Post is the source. So, Lemon has an attorney. The attorney says they're going to fight this vigorously, thoroughly. Weigh in. Was he in the right or the wrong to go into this church to film this anti-ICE protest? The people stormed the gate because they felt like the pastor of the church is not living his truth to be aiding ICE to arrest immigrants. So weigh in. Now, Mr. Lemon spoke to this other gentleman in the church. As you see, this gentleman didn't appear to be, well, you're not seeing it, but he didn't appear to be frightful or fearful of Lemon or him asking questions. He didn't seem to be, telling him, hey, get out of here. I don't want you asking questions. But this is where there's a problem. If you arrest one, you have to arrest all, okay? There were numerous people in this room. So why are you only picking him and some other Minneapolis journalists, because another journalist was arrested as well? Why are you only picking those two to arrest when the place was filled with people? Now, I will say it is not appropriate to go into a church storming the gate. It's not appropriate to go anywhere and storm the gate. I don't care if it's a federal business, state building, it's a church, it's a school. You don't have the right to just go bombard a place and start hollering and screaming about what you like, don't like, because things can get out of hand. And you can say all day, well, it was peaceful. It doesn't matter. You still went into a business. And a church is separate. As most of you know the law. Church is separate from state. So why are you in this place? So a judge didn't want to sign the warrant a week or so ago, but it was overrode. It was overrode. He was arrested by federal authorities. Weigh in, take the poll on my community page. Was it right for a warrant to be issued for Mr. Lemon and any other participants that were inside of this church? 2 people voted pertaining to my question, because Mr. Lemon was arrested in LA for this anti-protest in Minneapolis. 50% right, 50% wrong. So basically, we got one person saying it was right for him to be arrested. Another person said it was wrong. Take the poll, everybody, on my community page. This is, I don't know. I'm trying to think in the right way because before I went live, I wanted to make sure I got all the information before I gave my opinion. It's probably not best to go into the church or any building. I think everybody knows that. Protesting outside, that is your free amendment right to have an opinion and be outside to civilly protest. But you're not supposed to be throwing things, pushing, shoving, you understand, punching, disarming weapons. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to protest peacefully. Once you go into a building, that's where you have a problem. You can be charged with trespassing. So they're looking at Mr. Lemon as the same. His motive may not be to be on either side of the coin, but you should not be in here filming because really you're no different than the people coming in, no matter their motive. So weigh in. And then there was a church service. So I see what they're saying. It's a service going on. Why are you inside? And so really the people who are protesting, they have a problem with the pastor because he's been moonlighting for ICE. So I guess they're saying he should be objective to the people, to foreigners being in the country. And that's the one thing you always have to remember. Just because a person is a Christian or a pastor does not mean they're going to weigh on the side that you think they should weigh on. Weigh in, everybody. Should Mr. Lemon have been arrested by the feds for filming inside of the church last week in Minneapolis? Lord have mercy. Jones says, Don was in the right. I watched his live that day. He did nothing wrong but interview the people there. He did not storm anything, big issues. The pastor works for ICE. Don pointed that out. Yes, John, we have heard that was the purpose of the anti-ICE protest, was to go in to address. But the point is still, you went into a place that you weren't invited. That is church. We're not talking about running into a building and say, hey, we hear your tenants got leaky faucets. They got rats running around their apartment. You're not doing anything about it. Still, by law, you can be escorted out because you're not supposed to be there. This is church. You know you're not supposed to be going into a church. You're not going into church to praise the Lord. So they do have a right to say, I don't want you here. Even Mr. Lemon. And the church people may not even be against Mr. Lemon. I don't know. I haven't heard that they had a problem with Mr. Lemon coming in. But the point is, when you weigh it out, the judge can say it doesn't really matter that Mr. Lemon was going in good favor. He shouldn't have been in there because when you're trespassing, you weren't invited. The anti-protesters, it doesn't matter if they were going in and they weren't disrupting anything, but you are disrupting. So that part is wrong. You're disrupting the church service. And that's how they're going to look at it. Now, one judge didn't want him arrested. So this is why I keep saying everybody has their own opinion. One judge didn't want him arrested, but then it was overruled. A warrant was issued. But you are in church. A church service is sacred. No matter if you like the pastor, the preacher, the priest, the guest who's there speaking, it's still church. That's the point. Is that it's church. And that no matter your motive for going into church, a church service was ongoing, and you came in to make your point about the pastor. So a judge could weigh it as, well, Don, it doesn't matter if you are not in belief with the protesters, you're still trespassing on private property. Take the poll, everybody. We're going to now go to Idaho. Lord have mercy, what a mess this is. The autopsies of the Idaho 4 have been released to the public. It ain't good. It ain't good at all. Check out News Nation. Information about a two killer. So far, only one person has been arrested in the Idaho slayings. That's Mr. Korberger. Also, sexually motivated. Was the crime sexually motivated? A guest on News Nation believes that it was sexually motivated. I'm going down my list. Hold on, everybody. Queen watched so much content. It takes forever for me to go down everything. Some people probably aren't happy about the autopsy report being released. Photographs of the crime scene released. Some things are blanked out in the photographs. Naturally, it would probably be where the children were lying at the time. Court TV is the source of this information that I'm about to play. She says, to me, it looked as though people inside were dispersing. Doors were open. People were going in and out. Well, the point is, it's, like I said, everybody has their own perception of the situation. That's why I said I had to do my research before I gave my opinion on what's right, what's wrong. It is church, and that's just the bottom line. It's a sacred place, and it's not a place for protesting. Going in, going out. See, outside talking, ranting, raving is different than inside. You're talking about inside of a church. So if you weren't invited, it's not a good look going in a church to protest anything. That's why you're supposed to protest outside. You can say whatever you want. You can put up posters, whatever. But you're talking about going inside of the church. And many people may have a problem with that. You're going inside of the church. Now, you're for the cause of the anti-ICE, so to you, it may not be a big deal. I'm not saying you specifically, but just a person in general. Well, I feel like the government is wrong, blah, 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 blah. I don't care about going in there. But it does matter because it is a church. It's a building. And even if it was a bank, it's still the same. You're going into a private business with a problem. Doesn't matter if you're breaking glass, you're walking in with a gun. The point is you're going into a place where you were not invited to protest. That's the difference. I see that you feel like he hasn't done anything wrong. But some may say that he was because he was filming, even though he may not have been, cursing or saying, yo, Pastor, you're wrong for this. Why did you do this? We hear that you're with the ICE because, he's not supposed to really be giving his opinion as a journalist. But it is a church. So going into a church, it's not a good idea. You want to stand outside the church and say, hey, we have a problem with the pastor of the church. He also working for ICE. That's different. But once you went over the threshold, that's the problem. Because as you heard the one guy say, we had service going on. So some may look at Lemon that he's really no different than the ICE protesters. Doesn't matter that you're in here wanting to film the story. You're still in here. So, you're entitled to your opinion. All right, everybody. Let's talk about the four.
Of 4 University of Idaho students reveal the harrowing final moments. Investigators say the killer stabbed Kelly Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Carnodal, and Ethan Chapin more than 100 times. These new details showing the horror of the night, the violence of the night, and the evil within the killer. Tonight, we will go through all this new information and ask the question, why didn't prosecutors seek the death penalty for this monster? I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and we've got some new material to show you from the Idaho 4 case. And let me tell you, worse than we thought. And we thought the worst of this guy. But could you imagine that the information as it's coming out, revealing a scene inside that home that you can't imagine, the attack on these 4 young people and what they were subjected to. Unreal. We've got the details for you tonight. Horrific bloodshed in that house. This was kill. This was overkill. This was, the picture that's painted in my mind tonight is a sort of a manic episode where this guy just has the adrenaline going through the roof and is just taking it out on the next person that he sees. And once you hear these details, you're going to be really surprised that he did not go after Dylan. Because remember, Dylan sees him. I don't know if he sees her, but amazing that in light of what we're learning now, that 2 people were spared in that house. Now, the other part of this, once you hear and you'll get the details of all this horror, the prosecutor gave him a deal. I cannot get over this. I still cannot get over this. And the reason being, it is a state that has the death penalty. And if you don't seek it against this guy, then who? Wait till you hear the details. Who else would be eligible for this? This is who it's designed for. But the prosecutor gave him a deal. And that's why I always ask the question, did they get justice? And you can say, well, some of the families didn't want the death penalty. At the end of the day, should the worst of the worst be punished, the most severe? At the end of the day, in a state that has the death penalty, meaning the people of that state elected people into office who put that on the books, which means the people want it in that state. But you're not giving it to him. So is that truly justice? We can talk about that. But first, let's dive into some of these new details and to help us understand the findings from the autopsies. I want to bring in forensic death investigator, host of the very popular Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan.
Joseph Scott Morgan, that's his name I was trying to remember.
Thanks so much for being here. This is going to be a tough little segment, but I brought you in because you understand these death scenes. You could put some context and perspective for us. So I want to start with Xana, and let me read some of the stuff, and then you can kind of break it down for us. Cause of death: multiple sharp force injuries, while also suffering abrasions and contusion of the head, torso, and extremities. Awake at the time of the attack. 67 stab wounds. 25 incised wounds of the upper extremities. 23 stab incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. 7 stab wounds of the chest. 4 stab wounds of the abdomen. 3 incised and puncture wounds of the back. 5 incised wounds of the lower extremities. Punctures of the outer table of the skull. Perforations of the jugular vein, heart, lung, and pulmonary blood vessels. Hemorrhage into the chest cavities. Wounds extending into the bones of the right hand. Scrapes and bruises on the face, torso, and extremities. Blood on the bottoms of her feet. Joseph Scott Morgan, what story is this telling about what happened to Xana?
Well, let's start with feet. And I know this seems rather innocuous, but that gives us evidence that she was upright and mobile, at least for a few moments. That she fought. You don't get this contact trace blood elements on the feet without that having occurred. And then we move to the hands. This is evidence of an awareness because these sounds to me, at least, as though these are consistent with defensive wounds. So she's parrying any kind of attack like this back, trying to block. She's awake and alert at that moment in time. And then you begin to get into all of these other planes of the body that are insulted. So it's not as though that the perpetrator is merely advancing on her face to face. She's whirling about, okay, because you've got insults posteriorly, anteriorly, you've got them on multiple surfaces of the skull and the face. And it's not just sharp force injuries, Finn. They talk about incised wounds, which are slices. You have stab wounds, which are penetrative wounds. But then she's also got bruises or contusions, which means we're talking about, in addition to all of this, blunt force trauma. You mentioned a term earlier that I've heard you mention for many years, and I concur with this. This is, in fact, overkill. This is a frenzied event. I can't necessarily go to motivation, but I can tell you, Ben, that cases like this that I've worked over the years, this goes to...
I want to interject. Speaking of Xana, she fought the hardest between all the victims. 67 total stab wounds. Allegedly 67. This is why she has so many stab wounds over her body, because she fought. Blood under her feet. Xana was trying to give this man the business, but she lost. And sadly, the others lost as well. I also have other updates to bring to you from breaking news going in this Google search. This is some crazy nonsense. I'm going to go ahead and say this now. There's information that possibly Brian Kohlberger did not flee from the house after immediately killing the kids, which don't really make sense because of what they're saying. He posed the bodies of possibly the two girls in the bed. So that means he was still in the house because he hadn't killed the other kids yet. The other two, Xana and her boyfriend. All right, so a newly unsealed filing from the prosecutors in the case obtained by People stated that the former criminology student who was sentenced to life in prison after pleading guilty to murdering Idaho students Kaylee, 21, Madison, 21, Xana, 20, Ethan, 20, possibly took the time to arrange the bodies of two victims after killing them at their off-campus residence in 2022. Forensic scientist Dr. Brent Turvey, the crime scene expert for the Kohlberger's defense team, very interesting, made the observation after reviewing the autopsy reports according to filing. The evidence suggested after both victims were killed or unresponsive, they were posed in their shared bed, the crime scene analyst shared in court documents, per the outlet. Kaylee was moved from a position with her head on her pillow to partially atop Madison. Then the comforter was placed over them both. Wow, wow, wow. So Kohlberger, you moved the bodies. Why? And you covered them up. Why? Because we already know the only time that killers cover the body is usually because they feel bad about what they've done. And some of you are probably not going to agree with that. But I'm just saying, a lot of times when the body is covered with a cover, a sheet, whatever, it's because the person feels bad or they cannot look at their carnage. And I always said, hey, what did this guy do when he was there? Did he take any mementos, any souvenirs? Now we have his own defense expert saying Kaylee's head was moved on top of her friend, Maddie, and then they were covered. Oh, Lord have mercy. It says moved from a position with her head on her pillow to partially atop of Madison. Is that true? The detail alleged in the newly unsealed filing provides a new update to the timeline of the quadruple homicide. Okay? Just going through. Basically, they think he snuck through the house through the sliding glass door after 4 a.m. It also says Gonzalez was also suffocated during the attack. Authorities say Gonzalez's wounds made her unrecognizable, per a police report obtained by the Idaho Statesman. And we also had heard that from her parents. Coronado, who had a bedroom on the second floor, appeared to be awake, as you're hearing the court TV. She was ultimately stabbed over 50 times, suffering the most of her injuries while trying to defend herself. Chapin is believed to have been the last person attacked in the house, and sources close to the investigation told Dateline. Hold on. Phone's acting up. I'm trying to read this information. Yeah, I think Chapin was asleep. Because I think they're saying he wasn't, he didn't appear like he had fought or moved much. Sorry, everybody, my device is acting up. Jumped me off where I was reading. I told you this always happens every time I talk about this storyline. Every time I talk about this case, my phone, it always does weird stuff. I'm so glad they caught him. Can you imagine what else he could have done if he wasn't caught? Exactly. Sorry about that, everybody. Kind of broke up. This is E! News if you're curious to the source of this information. Sorry to interject while Court TV was on, but I wanted to get this out too. Because they did not mention this in Court TV about the bodies being posed. If you believe that. I don't know if you believe it or not. This is just from the expert who was looking, I guess, at the photographs. The defense's expert. Which sounds bad coming from their own expert. Okay, once again, Gonzalez was suffocated during the attack. Wounds made her unrecognizable. Coronado, who had a bedroom on the second floor, appeared to be awake at the time of the murders, ordered food from DoorDash. Allegedly, they said they saw that on the counter. Stabbed her 50 times, suffering because she was defending herself. Chapin believed to be the last person attacked, likely asleep in the bed before he was killed. The source added that the perpetrator carved his legs with a blade during the gruesome slaying. Wow. Oh, wow.
Being fueled by intense anger, fear, all of these sort of things. And if we believe what the narrative is that we've heard over and over, Xana was that kind of, she was that individual that stood between him and getting clear of this environment. He did not expect to encounter her. So he's like a caged animal, and with emphasis on animal here, Vin.
I'm going to interject. That was asked by a few people, that his intent was to kill one of the girls and that maybe Xana or Ethan surprised him. He wasn't expecting them to jump out, which is to me still kind of crazy because you've been watching this house God knows how many times. You've traveled to this house so many times. You know that there are people living in the house. Obviously, there are lights on. I'm assuming, maybe not. But the point is, you know that other people live in the house. So why would you be surprised that you're going to bump into somebody? That's their damn house. But I understand, you know, what Mr. Scott is saying here. He wasn't expecting for her to, I guess, bump into him. Because like they said, the DoorDash was in the, I guess, on the counter. So where was she coming from? Her bedroom? What? Bathroom? I don't know. But this is what he's saying. He wasn't expecting to see her. So I guess he did whatever he did with the girls upstairs, come down the stairs. And what? Chased her to the bedroom? Make it make sense. Did he chase her to the bedroom? Because she died, I'm assuming, in her bedroom because that's where she was lying in the floor. Remember when the girl said she came out? We found this out later. She saw her lying in the doorway, but she kept on going. She thought she was drunk. Stupidest thing I ever heard. Yep, a person can judge me. I don't care. It don't even sound right. You live in a house with people, you know their habits. That would only be expected of somebody in the floor if they're known to pass out drunk. If you've ever been around a drunk that stays drunk a lot and they pass out, you may not pay attention that they were in the floor drunk. You might be like, oh, that's Susie, that's Bob. They always pass out drunk. No big deal. Step right over them, keep on going, get you some Oreo cookies. Y'all understand what I'm saying? But if you don't know your friend to pass out drunk, you mean you're not even a little bit curious to say, hey, you need to get up, go get in your bed? I'm just saying. You know, people can say whatever they want. No, we weren't there. We don't know what happened, no more than what you're reporting to us. But when I found that out later, it still pissed me off because it's like, damn, you left out this room so scared and you ran by your friend past that hallway with her lying in the floor and you didn't think to say, damn, girlfriend laying in the floor, go touch her. Hey, get up, go get in your bed. That's why I'm saying that Xana normally pass out drunk, but we know she didn't pass out drunk because she was dead. I'm just saying.
Let's get to our next victim, Kaylee Gonzalez. Cause of death: multiple sharp force injuries while also suffering asphyxial injuries and blunt force injuries of the head. Stabbed a minimum of 38 times. 24 stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck. 11 stab and incised wounds of the chest. 3 stab and incised wounds of the upper extremities. Punctures of the outer table of the skull. Injuries to the teeth and tongue. Perforations of the subclavian artery and vein and hemorrhage into the chest cavities.
Wow.
Blunt force injuries, scalp laceration, bleeding around the brain, nasal fracture, scrapes on the nose and cheeks, bruising around the eyes, patterned bruises extending across the lower face, blood stains on the body, bed, and wall indicate her posture and position changed during this event.
Okay.
What story does this tell?
Okay, so he did say that. I'm sorry, I missed that. He said position changed during this event. I missed that, so I apologize. Because remember I said earlier, I didn't remember mentioning that she was posed. So that's because they didn't use that word posed. So let's hear that one more time.
Blood stains on the body, bed, and wall indicate her posture and position changed during this event.
So when they say change, are they saying she was moving around? Because my understanding, she was in the corner. The way the room was situated, the way the mother described it, the room was so small, the bed had to be put up against the wall. You know, naturally didn't have room to walk around. And Kaylee would have been in the corner. Maddie would have been on the outside. We knew that from where he left the sheath. Because naturally he went in, pulled the sheath off, the knife, sat it on the bed, then started stabbing the girls. But now we see it says the blood stains on the body, bed, and wall indicate her posture and position changed during this event.
What story does this tell?
Yeah, so when you think about this child, then let's just go to, because I know a lot of people are curious about this idea of the external table of the skull. And the external table of the skull, there's a top layer to the skull, if you will. So this is a non-penetrative injury to the skull itself. So what this means is, with the utilization of this blade, and keep in mind, this K-bar blade is very robust. At its heart, this is a combat knife, okay? Very resilient, very robust. So if you think about the blade itself kind of glancing off of the skull itself, it will in fact chip that external or outer table of the skull every time that this occurs. Then we begin to think about the hemorrhage that you see inside of the cranial vault. That's because of this concussive event where she's being pummeled. There's a lot of this pummeling that's going on here because the knife and the fist or the fist wrapped around a knife, he's essentially doing this and then driving the blade, I think, into her face. And if anybody gets a chance to look at the K-bar, if you flip it on its end and you look at the base of this thing, it actually looks like a hammer. Okay, and that's what Marines have used this thing for. It's not just a combat knife, but it's a utility knife. So it can be used as a bludgeon. It's fascinating when they begin to talk. Did you notice what you had mentioned? If you go back to that, they talked about a pattern, the pattern injuries. Well, if you have a pattern injury, that means that it marries up with some type of object, right? And my suspicion is that during this kind of blunt force trauma, you've got these patterns that are appearing on the face. And one more thing about this poor young lady is that you said there were a minimum of wounds. Do you know why they're saying that instead of being specifically qualifying there? Because you have intermingled wounds that are communicating with one another. And so even in the autopsy room, when you're trying to make sense of what you're seeing, you'll have cross communications between insults, and sometimes you cannot accurately count them. This is a very concentrated attack all over her. She had an awareness. We think about being in a recumbent position, maybe prone or supine. As she's sleeping, she reacts. She rises to this. So the attitude that she's in physically is adjusting relative to the attacker.
You ever heard of 1-800?
Okay, brief intermission. So could it be she fell on top of Maddie? Naturally, you've got to fall at some point once the body has stopped breathing. Is this account accurate from this defense witness? But usually detectives can tell if a body was moved after death, I guess. I don't know what I'm saying. This is just so graphic. It's just, it's a lot to digest. I must admit.
Kaylee's best friend, Maddie Mogan, cause of death, multiple sharp force injuries, 13
Wiccan, you know they felt
incised wounds to the scalp, face, and neck, 10 incised wounds of the upper extremities, 5 stab wounds of the chest, wounds to the lung and liver, perforations of the subclavian vein, subclavian artery, and blood vessels of the chest wall, an incision of the nasal septum, and a perforation of the tongue.
Damn.
One other thing, if you could give us your opinion on does any of this give you any indication of who may have been murdered first?
No, you do that at your own peril, and any forensic pathologist or medical.
All right, I'm going to interject. 13 stabs, Madison Mogan. Okay. When you hear the issue about the tongue, the nose, same thing with Kaylee, he is disfiguring their faces. It's obvious. I don't like you. I'm mad at you. Why are you doing this to me? I wanted to be your friend. I liked you. I was interested. Whichever one was the target. And once again, it could be there was only one. I don't know. Shocked that another one's in the room. Hell, maybe he just got shocked the whole damn time. He's shocked there's an extra girl in the bed. He's shocked when he saw Santa. I don't know. If you weren't in the house, you wouldn't be shocked. How about that? You didn't have no business in their damn house. And these kids didn't lock their door. This is why you have to lock your doors. But as Bonnie said in her commentary about the Tepe case, he was going to get in one way or the other. Michael McKee. Exactly. They either catch you coming or going. The person wants you dead. They'll catch you coming or going if they can't get in that damn house. So here's another sick case of people being unalive in their own home, minding their business. Same rage, same resentment, just like in the Tepe case. Angry, mad, different weapon, but same rage, hate. One, I can't have you. You don't want to be with me anymore. You went on to marry somebody else, had kids, pretty girls, living their best life. Why don't they like me? Why aren't they attracted to me? It's really the same type of bullshit. Same type of hate, rage, animosity. If you sit both cases side by side. You're talking about two angry men. Minus a baby. Shut your mouth. Two angry men. One's been with one woman. She moved on. He's still mad. Here's somebody idolizing pictures, photographs of people he don't even fucking know, which is even more crazy and bizarre because he had know these kids. We have got no proof he hung with these kids, had class with these kids, had any interaction to have an attitude, disposition, negative feelings about these kids. But see, I've talked about this before on this network. You don't have to know people. What did I tell you about posting stuff to Facebook, looking at pictures, looking at people driving by in a nice neighborhood? Why him? Why her? Why do they have a nice house? Why do they have a nice car? Why does he get all the attention? Why does he get all the girls? Why does she have a family? Why does she have beautiful kids? Why does she have a handsome husband? Whatever. Why not me? We have people walking around with this feeling inside. And most of us have probably had this feeling at some point as children, teenagers, adults. Why not me? Why do I not have these things? Why do I not look like her, look like him? Because you can't. God made us all different and also in his image. Stay woke, everybody. But sometimes that's not good enough to self. It's not good enough.
Death investigator out there would say the same thing. All we can merely do is give you an indication of the number of insults that have occurred, the level of trauma. It's very, very difficult to put this in order. I wish we could so desperately, but we can't. It's almost an empirical impossibility to do that. Maddie's injuries are unique to her in the sense that you begin to think about, if you touch the underside of your nose, this is your septum right here. So she's got an incised injury that literally goes across this area, clips the nasal septum, as it will. So the blade is literally being dragged across her face at this point in time.
It's hard for me to listen to this. I listened to this earlier in the morning and re-listening. This is too much for me. Especially with this describing of the nose. You know, it's because he's stabbing every which way but loose. Up and down, across. He's gashed her nose, Maddie. Okay? Stabbing their faces. I hate you. I'm mad at you. I'm angry. Like I just said, why not me? Why not me? So like Morgan said, he went in there and he let loose. He showed you how angry he is and how angry he has been. Because you know, as an adult, listening to this information, Korberger, like so many other people out here, hell, maybe including yourself, you do not wake up this bitter, vengeful. You have felt this way a mighty long time. This ain't overnight anger. Korberger hates himself. So all that rage in that room, in the room downstairs, Xana and Ethan, was a mirror image of how Korberger feels about himself. And what's interesting to me is that listening to the description of what these kids went through, the fact that he has the audacity to have led us, played these games with the court system, for over a year and a half or so, and then go into court, finally take the plea, which was wrong. Hell yeah, he should have been put to death. And then got the nerve to complain about what the hell's going on in that prison. It's noisy. It's this. I don't like the food. Well, motherfucker, it ain't the Marriott. You put yourself there. You did not have to kill these kids. You didn't have to stalk these kids. You could have kept on doing you, but you couldn't because you're fucked up upstairs. And how Korberger got this way, I don't know. But the point is, you have to own your SHIT. You have to stand account and own your troubles. And he didn't want to own it. Former addict, self-hater. woman hater, and had the nerve to call mommy mother. Damn Norman Bates. Yes, mother. Hell, did you hate your mama, hate your sisters? Because a woman is a woman to me. I don't know how you can go out here and hate women and talk down to them and talk over them. Well, how are you talking to your mother? Because a lot of people, most men who hate women usually hate their mother. Come on with it, Queen. And to me, mother is a very affectionate word. To some degree, I guess. Everybody calls their mother something different. Mother, mommy, mom. Some of you even call your mother by her first name. And usually, and that's a problem for me, because usually that to me is a detachment when women want their children to call them by the first name. To me, those are women that usually I think are not attached to mommyhood. Yeah, I'm saying that. Same thing with fathers. Just call me Bill. Why would you want your child to call you Bill? I'm just saying.
She's also, again, this facial attack that's going on. And I've thought about this a lot, Ben, in the sense that I think that one of the two young ladies in that room were the target. Obviously, I think that's been talked about extensively. I know that you have, and so have I. But when you combine the level of trauma that both Maddie and Kaylee have sustained inside of this environment, this is almost an effort to disfigure. That's why I think that upon the initial event, when the perpetrator entered into this room, first off, I think this is probably sexually motivated. I think there's an adrenaline dump because this is driven by his lust. I think he's surprised when he gets in there because there's two. So now you're heaping on top of that adrenaline dump. You got fear and anger that are coming in, and he just goes wild in this environment and begins stabbing them repeatedly over and over and over again. He very well could have gone from body to body. Yeah. Okay, and that has happened over the course of my career. I've seen that occur. There would be DNA.
Let me jump that, because that's something I had questioned since we learned about the kids being unalived in the bed. I always said, well, how is one in the bed not awake? Because this guy was a big guy. You're talking about two itty bitty spiders, short, can't combat this big old guy. How is he stabbing one without another one not doing anything, being awake? So what we hear Morgan saying here, he was probably going from one to the other. Can you imagine? One's trapped in the corner. That's Kaylee. She can't get out over this big old figure. And naturally, he probably stabbed Maddie first because she's on the outside. So you kill what's close to you first. Stabbing her. Maybe this one's up. Wake up. What are you doing? Both. Boom, boom, boom. Back and forth, back and forth. There's no way he couldn't have cut himself. Stabbing two people at the same time. Head, neck, mouth, nose, chest. This man was busy. And amongst the four, you're talking about 100 plus stab wounds, at least 100. I want you to think about that. 100. 4 victims. Stabbing 2 at one time. That's crucial. Because I'm sure most of you were thinking to yourself, why one couldn't get out? Why one couldn't escape? And you always heard Kelly's mom say she was trapped in there because of the way the bed was made. She's in the corner. She didn't have a way out. And I always was thinking about that. Well, how is he being able to kill both in this bed? One couldn't try to get out. One couldn't try to get around him while he's stabbing the other one. Probably did try, of course. But they lost. Lord have mercy.
Evidence on that knife where you would have commingled DNA, I think probably, and on other surfaces, of course, we don't know where that knife is. Lord only knows. I hope it's found at some point in time, but we don't have it. Both of these girls were extremely disfigured and attacked. Whereas if you think about Xana, her wounds are more randomized. They're over multiple planes. These two victims, you have this kind of concentration where it's really focused on the face here.
Okay.
Final victim, Ethan.
Okay, before he gets into the situation with Ethan, the two girls, Maddie, Kaylee, best friends in the same bed, their wounds were concentrated above the neck. Because those two or one was who he fancied and had the anger. Fancy turns to anger, as I just stated. Why not me? Woe is me. Why don't they like me? She don't like me. What's wrong with me? Every damn thing's wrong with you. You're a woman hater. You see, that's what people don't seem to understand about hate. Hate comes from within. Because the time you take hating somebody else, you are taking away from self. The time you stay bitter, angry, mad, upset, you're taking from self. Because it's energy. And I know a lot of us don't think like that. But every time you're mad, you're angry, you're venting, you are taking away from self. Energy. It takes energy to be angry. To rant, go off. You know what I mean? So imagine this guy. He hadn't even been at the school long enough to even be having these type of feelings for these kids. And it's not like he hung with them. It's a difference if it was a guy that hung with the kids and he made advance to the girl or girls and they, no, I'm not interested. And he just walked around pouting to himself, seething. A complete stranger living in a town and state 15 minutes away. This fucking angry over complete strangers. You put that on paper. That's why I said this is just as crazy as this Tepe case. You're holding on a grudge for 10 years for your ex-wife versus this fool holding on to a grudge for two strangers or a stranger. He don't even damn know. And yeah, I believe he cut himself. Because listening to Scott say he had been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because they're in this small space, you see. They were trapped. Both of them were trapped. You got this tall guy versus two little people. They're trapped in this bed. So he's working overtime. Boom, 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 boom. Back and forth, back and forth. And as you heard Scott say, their wounds were concentrated toward the face. I hate you. I hate you. And that's what you would see a woman do to another woman. You've heard many stories of women who were disfigured in their face, acid thrown in their face. Because usually when a woman has been brutalized by acid, some form of chemical to the face, it's because more than likely she's a very pretty lady. Even beautiful, whatever word you like to use. And that's something a woman would do to another woman. But I could see a man doing it as well. Especially a woman he liked, was interested in, had a relationship with, or wanted, desired. Scott says this was sexual. This was sexual. But we did not hear that he penetrated the young ladies. For all we know, he can't even get it up. Excuse my language, but possibly he can't. Who's to say that he can even perform as a man? Because we've not even heard of him having an actual sexual relationship with a female. Stay woke, everybody. So imagine if he had some type of sexual dysfunction. And I'm not here to say that he does. I'm just saying he could have a sexual dysfunction. And I imagine he can't get it up, can't perform, likes women, can't get with a woman, can't get the kind of woman he wants. Oh, yeah, he is mad as hell. Did Kohlberger take anything from the crime scene? Did he take any type of mementos belonging to the girls from this house? Did he do anything in the house that nobody has even paid attention to? See, these are things that some people aren't even asking. Did he do anything in that house that nobody would even know was done? Something misplaced, something said a certain way that only Korberger knows. Because I wonder if the detectives even asked that. Could he have done something in the house? Bathroom, bedrooms, put something somewhere? I mean, I don't know, just asking.
Shape and 6 incised wounds of the upper extremities, 6 stab and incised wounds of the lower extremities, 4 stab and incised wounds of the scalp, face, and neck, 1 stab wound of the upper chest, perforations of the jugular vein, subclavian vein, and subclavian artery.
Yeah. So what stands out to me about Ethan's injuries, specifically the concentration is up here. For folks that are wondering where the subclave is, if you'll find your clavicle, your collarbone right here, the subclavicular clavicle runs beneath there. It's a major blood supply. So you're going to have a lot of internal bleeding with this. It doesn't seem as though that Ethan really moved from the position that he was in. But one thing that's always struck me as odd with Ethan, and I think you probably know where I'm going, Vin, are these insults that he has on his lower extremities. They seem to be incised wounds, and I don't. And look, in the heat of the moment, maybe the confined space in here, you can't explain it because you've got somebody that's reacting in anger. But in that concentration, they're that low on the body. I've never been able to make sense of it or what the purpose of that was. And of course, I don't think that we will ever know that. But Ethan certainly is traumatized to a great extent as well. There is not as much facial disfiguration with him. I don't think that the perpetrator spent as much time in his efforts to kill Ethan as he did the others.
Face, neck, head for Ethan. And Scott says he doesn't understand the bottom half stab wounds. That probably was afterwards. He stabbed them at the top first. Next, you stab people in the face because they can't see. You understand? And you're going to get shot. You stabbed in your face, stabbed in your legs. You'll probably pop up out the bed. And he was a big guy. So they would have been probably rolling with each other. He had just stabbed him in his legs first. He stabbed him in the face, neck, all the upper, near the throat or whatever, to make sure he's subdued. This is an evil man. Korberger is just evil. Xana's up, hungry. Other girls, they didn't end up getting any food allegedly, except for at that truck. And then I think the girls downstairs, they didn't order any food. And I just find it strange. All this is going on and nobody is hearing any damn thing. But yet we know these 2 girls were up because we've got the text messaging and everything of the phone call and texting back and forth. And there's no way in this old house you can't hear floors creaking, beds rocking. Come on. Luckily for Queen, I've got good hearing to some degree. Sometimes I mishear things. I think what my problem is, I can hear better afar than up close. Make it make sense? I don't know. But afar, I could tell you when the neighbor is coming out the door. This is how I've always been. I know when you're coming out your apartment. I know when you're standing outside the door. That ear is like a damn dog, honey. Now, sometimes I have a problem trying to decipher things I'm listening to up close, such as I've got the TV on, and sometimes I mishear things up close, but afar I can hear very well. Make it make sense. This is scary as hell to me. And the one thing people need to understand about crimes like this, and you have people who are alive in the house, you can't get mad because people are questioning who did what, who was where, who was up, who was asleep. You're now getting information to who was up and who wasn't. So hell yeah, we're going to question 2 people alive in the house and everybody else dead. You would have to be a fool not to. And then you learn that they were up texting. I don't call it victim shaming. It's called common sense. It didn't strike you that something is off. And when you sit here listening to the descriptions of these kids, something's got to be moving about. I'm sitting here looking at the pictures. I refuse to believe that nightstand in that damn room was where it was before Kohlberger got in there. Come on with it, Queen. There's blood all over that damn bedroom. Blood is even underneath the bed. Maddie's bed. They showed you a picture of underneath the bed. The blood is underneath in the corner. That's where Kaylee would have been sleeping. That blood ran all the way down that wall because you know they laid in the bed for hours until EMTs got there. Blood is all in the floor. Nightstand is not even close to the bed. Come on with it, Queen. And this girl is sleeping up under Maddie's room because her room was in that little hallway off the kitchen. And then he goes down the stairs with his Bigfoot's tail and I guess catch this girl off guard and somehow what? Chase her in the room, and then he gives her the business and Ethan the business too. And we learned that Xana fought the hardest. That's why she had so many wounds. 68. Xana said, fuck that. I'm fighting this big motherfucker. But she lost. Excuse my language, honey, but it's just hard listening to this.
Joseph Scott Morgan, your insight is the best, and really, I think, gives us all a much clearer understanding of what happened here to these 4 victims, and we appreciate your time tonight. Joseph Scott Morgan,
You're
thank
quite
you.
welcome, my friend.
All right, I'm going to stop there. You can feel free to check it. It's only got about like 5 more minutes left. Court TV, Idaho student killings, autopsy reports reveal gruesome details, uploaded 2 days ago. This is a 2-part live pertaining to the arrest of Don Lemon, reporting anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis. He was arrested in LA. Take the poll on my community page if you believe he should have been arrested or anybody else should have been arrested. And part 2, the Idaho 4 murders. In this commentary, I gave you the rundown on how many times these victims were allegedly stabbed, where they were stabbed, and also possibility that the victims were posed by Mr. Kohlberger. Is that true? He posed the victims. Or is it just so happened the way they died? Don't know. This is scary as hell. This is scary as hell. And I think the scary part is the obvious, such as with the Tepe case, the latest case that everybody's discussing. These people died in their house. So some people tell the Banfield, I guess they didn't like her comparing this to Kohlberger's case, but she can compare it because it's the same MO. Anger towards women, invasion of personal space. It is similar. One was a gun used, one was a knife. It's the only difference. But there was hatred towards the women. Jilted. I can't have her anymore. She doesn't deserve to live. Husband don't deserve to live. Hey, I like these chicks. I like this chick. She don't like me. She don't deserve to live. What's the difference? And they're killed in their own house. What's the difference? And they're interesting because one knew the victim and Kohlberger didn't know his victims. Didn't know them kids from a can of paint. Lived in an entirely different state. Went to an entirely different school. older than the kids. Nothing in common with them. Nothing. Yet, as I always say, 6 degrees of separation. He is in their house. Probably did a dry run like Mr. McKee did the Tepe's home. Y'all better pay attention. I'm woke. We get information about Mr. McKee. He'd have been in that house or on that property for hours while they were in Indianapolis at a game. Somebody don't hear me. I've talked about this before with Brian. Did he do a dry run? And now that we know that he went in his house, just like Bonnie said about Mr. McKee, go get in either way, Queen. So if that door hadn't been unlocked, that glass sliding door, he would have found a way to get in, a window, something, climbed up on top of a railing, walked into a bedroom, whatever, a window. I won't in here, I'm going to get in here. This lets you know how sick a person is, that they are willing to break and enter into a house. But you would have to watch the house to know, ding, 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 that you can get in there. Bingo card. Because you ain't just getting ready on one round, walk up to somebody's house and say, I'm coming in here. You have been there. You have been there to know you can get in. You have watched habits. And I won't doubt one late night, he actually walked that property. Late, just like he did that morning he went when he knew most people would be asleep. He's gone his little butt over there and walked, stood, probably went down the little embankment in the back and, messed with the windows, see what he could open, not open. And what's going to be even more scary is that he's been in there because these girls didn't lock no damn doors and they never got, obviously, that glass door, you either like leaving it open or it was broke. Just let me see if I can get in here. And I won't doubt that he went there once and opened that glass door and it was open. Now imagine that. He has went there, tried the door, boom, 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 it opened. And he stepped in. Because let me tell you something. What did I tell you about? The looking glass. The store window. With the mannequins and the pretty outfits, you can only stand outside that glass so long, you're going to get tired of looking in that damn glass. I got to get in here. There's something I want in there. I got to get in that store. I want to try on the coat. I want to feel the fabric. I got to get in this store. Okay, that's what Kohlberger did. You can only watch for so long. It is known with peeping Toms. How long you think a peeper is going to keep peeping through the window? They're getting, as Scott says, sexually gratified, probably from watching, looking, as you see kids and people on social media. So he's probably self-gratifying looking at their pictures. But it's the same game. How long you going to look at a picture of a pretty girl? Now I know where she stays. Now I'm going to sit outside and watch them come and go. Now he's imagining himself with them. Uh-oh, go to the door. Oops, it's open. Shit, I might as well let my cell phone in here. Do you know how scary this is? That he has possibly went in the rooms and stood and looked at these girls sleep and they didn't even know Kohlberger was in that house. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Thank you, Wiccan. Wiccan says he probably went in the house when everyone was gone and seen they left the door unlocked. Well, Wiccan, you got to remember from the affidavit, he went to that house a few times at night during that summer and fall. And we know that most people are asleep at 3, 4 because the kids got to go to school in the morning. So that's the perfect time to go to a property and see if you can check the windows and doors because that's the time that most people are asleep. Stay woke now. You got to remember, he's not traveling far, 15 minutes away. That's enough time for him to get over there, test the doors and windows, gawk, see if I can get in. And I won't doubt, he already knew that glass door would be unlocked. Because obviously he knew he could get in. It's just like the situation with the Teppies. This man went to the house fumbling around over there at that door while these people were in a whole nother town. And then he waits. Weeks later, he doubles back and he makes entry into the Teppies' home and he unalives these people in their own damn house. It is the same to me. Damn near identical. He probably been watching his ex-wife on social media, getting reports from associates, friends. You don't know who Michael McKee had been talking to over the years about his ex-wife and her husband, learning their habits. You don't think he wasn't going over there to Columbus on his days off from the hospital to drive by to see what they're doing? He's probably followed this lady going out to the grocery store. She don't even know she's been followed. Because in 10 years, he's possibly changed his car. And I bet you these girls, they never even looked out their damn window facing the street to see who's outside parked, who's pulling into the driveway. Because young people just don't pay attention to stuff. And I told you, every time I go near the University of Tennessee, I see everybody doing the same damn thing. They're looking at their phones. So if you're looking at your phone during the daytime, walking to class, leaving class, you're doing it at night. You're getting out your car, looking at your phone. You're getting in your car, looking at your phone. You're walking down the street, looking at your phone. Oblivious to your surroundings. You need to be aware of where you live. Who lives next door to you, behind you, in front of you. You notice a car going by. Okay, you notice it again 2 hours later. You notice it again the next day. This man been walking by them and driving by. They ain't even paid attention. They say, now Kaylee noticed somebody. She thought she was being watched. It probably was Korberger. What are the odds? She felt like she's being watched. And next thing you know, she ends up dead. He probably stood up there on that hill where there's a parking lot to the adjacent apartment complex. He probably parked up there and stood and watched through the windows. And like I said, he probably climbed down the embankment and looked and peeped and tried the windows and the doors to see if he could get in. And he probably pulled on the glass door and said, oops, it's unlocked. They leave their glass door unlocked. I don't know why these kids will not lock their damn door. And like I said, it's not to say that he was not going to try to come back or, to get in. But my thing is, make it hard for somebody to get in. Have cameras on the house, motion sensors. Have the mobile app. So anybody standing on your property, you got an image of them there. You get a beep on your phone. Somebody is on the property. And I get it. You're not going to be paying attention if you're asleep. But at least have an alarm or something. So if a person starts messing with windows and doors, an alarm will go off. Wiccan's so funny. Join the conversation. No, honey, they just like listening, girl. But I want to say this and I'm going to check out of here. We can say coulda, woulda, shoulda in all these situations. What somebody should have done, didn't do. It's water under the bridge, okay? But you want to try to safeguard your house because that is where you sleep, and that's supposed to be the safest place on earth is where you sleep. And with the Tepe case, it's no different. If this man made contact with his wife, which obviously he did, she didn't want to file a report. Why? I don't know. But the point is, she is dead. Her husband is dead. And even filing a report does not mean Michael McKee would not have unalived his ex-wife and her husband. But at least there would have been a record. And maybe had they talked to a neighbor, and said, hey, could you look out? If you see anybody suspicious walking around, lingering around our cars, please call 911. You see, it's always good to have an eye in the sky besides the cameras on the pole that belong to the city. People get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, drink a soda pop, eat a little food. And who's to say that somebody could have gotten up in the night and happened to see Mr. McKee lurking about and then said, oh, I'm going to call 911. Now I'm going to call the neighbor and tell him, hey, there's some guy out there walking around your property. But obviously, they didn't tell anybody. And maybe they weren't friends with their neighbors. And the scary part is the fact that he said, I could buy a house next door to you. So, Queen got to thinking, well, hell, did he own a house next door? Because that would be even more disturbing if we find out he got a house on the block. Shut your mouth. Because when your mind is this sick and you are just far gone and far removed from reality, you have now become diabolical. You would buy a house on the block. You would buy a house next door and be sitting there the whole time laughing to yourself saying, I got her. I'm next door. I'm 2 doors down and she don't even know. I got an apartment right around the corner. This man is. Michael McKee is evil to even say some shit like that. I can buy a house next to you. I can find you wherever you go. You will always be my wife. You think about all the years he has wasted being this miserable. Same thing with Brian Kohlberger. You do not wake up overnight being this way. You have had contempt for years. You have been mad at the world for years. And if it wasn't the house on King Road, those girls, Ethan, it would have been somebody else. Always remember that. Same thing with Michael McKee. Had he married another young lady, it would have been the same game. We would still be on this story. Her name could have been Susan, Mary. We'd be talking about her. And that's what you have to understand about a sick mind. It was going to be somebody. Because, people ask that when their family member is unalive. They always say, why my child? Why my sister? Well, common sense should tell you it was going to be somebody's sister. It's going to be somebody's mother. It's going to be somebody's daughter. Kohlberger was going to unalive somebody. And he did. Michael McKee was going to unalive somebody. And he did. Because what you have to tell yourself, in the Kohlberger case, he didn't even know these kids. So you already know it was going to be somebody. And it's no different over here in Ohio. If it was not Monique, it was going to be another woman. Because if you can murder one woman that you're not even dealing with, what would be the difference if it was some other lady? There wouldn't be no difference. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below this video. Follow me also on the Newsbreak app. I get a lot of views over there, and I want to thank those people for following me. I got people watching me from all over the world, and I want to thank those people who really show me some love over there on the Newsbreak app. You can follow me. The name is still the same, The Vault Excel. I give content and posts over there. And I want to thank you all who follow me here. I want to thank those who watch me, subscribe. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Yes, the Queen turned 55 yesterday. God is good. And do you know I didn't even take a drink yesterday? How about that? I ran around yesterday because I was out looking for something particular for myself for my birthday, and I didn't find what I wanted. So when I got home, I was like literally frozen. Literally, to all I could do was eat dinner and crawl into bed. I couldn't even think of drinking any alcohol. I ate a little cheesecake and watched a little TV and dozed off. I didn't even have me a birthday drink. And I said, well, it doesn't matter. I drank the night before, so that was fine. But birthday was good. I'm going to go back out today and get a few more things from Wally World. I'm going to hang my curtains up properly in my living room, my little thin shears, and get these little hooks. And that's about it. That's going to be my birthday treat, hanging curtains. Nothing special. I still have not bought a coffee maker. Don't ask. The one I really want, I don't want to pay that amount of money for a Keurig. I think I want a blue one, but I don't want to give $50-something for a damn Keurig. So I've seen 2 on Facebook Marketplace. But anyway, I'm kind of particular about household stuff like that, being used. But anyway, I'll get me one. But right now I got other stuff I want to pay for. So I'm focusing on hanging those shears, because a few weeks ago, the pole fell down and hit me in my damn head. And when I say it hurt, oh my gosh, it was a heavy rod. So I have not reclaimed those curtains by putting them up. But today will be the day to put the little sticky things up there. So the sticky hooks, because I'm going to buy a very light, thin rod, because the window is not that big. So I don't really need a expensive rod up there on to hang the curtains. And after that incident, damn well I'm not getting another heavy rod. Anywho, that's the latest with the Queen. Thank you all once again for the love. And if you'd like to donate to this network or send a birthday gift, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live. All my information is on my channel to reach me by IG for updates to a story. If you have information on any content I've brought to this network, any type of update you know of that would be viable to bring to the network, you can reach me on IG. All that's in my description on my channel. Thank you all so much for the love, and thank you all for commenting. Thank you, Wiccan, for supporting the channel and helping everybody get notifications. She says, thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us. Have a blessed day and night. Much love. Hit that like on your way, and please subscribe and share. Have a beautiful day, Queen. Thank you. Wiccan's music. Wiccan, what do you be listening to? Yeah, nobody likes to talk. I think people talk more when I go live and I show myself. Maybe later when I come back from Walmart, I'll show myself. I'm going to do some shorts on what I've brought you today pertaining to this information. I think I'm just like in a daze after listening to this content about the kids. And then the fact that defense expert said they were possibly posed. That would be Maddie and Kaylee. And that they were covered. Well, why would you cover them if they were posed? That don't make no sense. Maybe he was shocked when he went in there. Only saw one in the room. But if he had been watching the house, I'm going to say this, check out here. If he had been watching the house, he would have already known that Kaylee left. Because like I said, I don't know how many times he went over there around the time that Kaylee was moving out. But perhaps he realized, okay, this one car is missing. I don't see it anymore. And then two, she did get that truck. But I'm just saying, if you're watching a house, you'll know the cars. I won't doubt that he would Google the car tags to see who they're registered to. Why not? Because think about this. You're going over to someone's home that you do not know. You're watching them. Your phone's pinging there. You've possibly been in the house. Why would I sit here and think he didn't Google their tags to get their full birth dates, names, any information on them, where they're from, where they've lived? Why not? You're taking time out of your busy schedule to go run over here and stalk these kids. Seems like to me, hell yeah, he'd want to find out whatever he could about these kids. And now he's sitting up in a prison complaining about not getting appropriate food, vegan food, and they're making too much noise, and they're accosting him and threatening him. So what? You chose this road, buddy, so deal with it. And I would tell anybody, you like your freedom, you like getting up when you want, going to work when you want, doing what you want, living your best life, you better stay your ass out of trouble so you don't end up like Korberger. Because you can do the smallest of something and end your ass up in jail. And possibly prison. He did not have to unalive these kids. That's his choice. Those kids didn't know him. They had not done nothing to him. All they were doing were breathing and minding their business. So him sitting up here complaining, who gives a F-U-C-K? I don't. Whining and crying. Like somebody just picked him up and threw him in prison. Oh, it's a mistaken identity. You got the wrong guy. No, we got the right guy. This is where you wanted to be. So deal with it, brother. You want to be OCD in there? Knock yourself out. Oh, yeah, I know he pissed off. He can't do what he wants. He can't eat what he wants. But he made that choice. And that's what's hilarious to me. That here you have this tall, lanky figure, mad at the world, woman hater, narcissist, head knocker, wannabe God complex, locked up, vegan. He's trapped. Korberger ain't nothing but a trapped rat. And that's the choice he made. I'll bring you an update to Mr. Lemon. And I want to thank you once again for listening. I'll talk to you guys later. You all have a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. The weather is supposed to be getting bad once again here in East Tennessee. So if you live in my area, get all your toiletries and your loaf of bread, eggs, whatever. Because I'm sure when I go into Walmart today, all of that will be gone. These people around here, those are the first things they buy. Eggs, milk, and bread. As if the rest of us don't want cereal. Although I have not had cereal in years. But you understand what I'm saying. These people buy up all the milk, the eggs, the bread. It's the way it is, everybody. Thank you so much. You have been listening to The Vault Excel. Thank you.